All right, so to finish out this histogram example that we were doing at the end of class on Wednesday, again, just a reminder, to construct the histogram, we needed the midpoints of each class, and we needed the frequency, the number of values in each class, and we pulled that from the expanded frequency distribution that we had already constructed. So remember, on the horizontal axis, we labeled our midpoints evenly spaced. On the vertical axis, we're going to graph our frequencies, since this is a frequency histogram, not a relative frequency histogram. So I'm going to go ahead and label. You always want to label what you're graphing. And then I'm going to set my scale. Now, my frequencies only go up to 12, so I don't need a huge scale, but I do want to define the scale that I'm going to be using to graph. So you could go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could go 2, 4, 6, 8. You could go 3, 6, 9, 12. Doesn't really matter so long as you define your scale. I'm going to go by twos and then follow it to construct your graph. And again, this is just to make sure that our graph has a meaningful shape. That's why it's so important that we graph to scale. All right, so now I'm ready to construct the graph, and what I'm going to do is draw a bar for each class. The bar should be centered over the midpoint, and the height of the bar should show the frequency. All right, so I'm going to start here at 38. Again, I want to center the bar over the midpoint. So I'm going to go up to the frequency of 12. I'm going to create my bar, and I'm going to bring it down on the other side. Always a good idea to use a straight edge when you're constructing these graphs, just to keep things as accurate as you can. Now, when I move to the second class, where the midpoint is 45 and the frequency is 11, remember in class I said one of the important things about a histogram is that there should be no spaces between the bars. So I don't want to start this over at the bottom. What I'm going to do is just continue from the first bar. I'm going to put it at 11 in terms of my frequency, all right, but I'm just going to bring this out. And then I'm going to come right down on the other side to keep it centered over the midpoint and construct my second bar. And then I'm just going to continue this. I'm going to plot at a midpoint of 52. I'm going to plot a frequency of 4. Again, notice I'm just continuing it from the previous bar. And then the last 3 midpoints are going to be down here with a frequency of 1. And at that point, I have constructed my histogram. All right, so again, big things to remember. Use the midpoints to plot the classes. Use a scale to plot your frequencies, whether it's by 1s or 2s or 5s or 10s. And then don't forget to label what you've included on those scales, right? So I talked about that here. I labeled that this was a frequency. If you're doing relative frequencies, make sure you label that. And then remember, your midpoints are data values. So make sure you don't label those as just midpoints that doesn't tell anybody anything. Label those according to the data, right? And these data values were speeds, and their units were in miles per hour. All right, so again, we're going to finish out section 2.1 when we meet again next Wednesday. In the meantime, go ahead and start working on the homework for 2.1, even if you just stick to practice, right? Hold off on any problems that mention polygons or ojibs. But anything else in section 2.1, you should be good to go ahead and start working on.